Adrift. The ocean is a power unmatched by anything on this earth. If you don't believe me, hop on a raft and see where it takes you. I found myself floating on a lifeboat, surrounded by nothing more than the deep blue of the majestic sea. Luckily, I wasn't alone. My wife and I decided for my 50th birthday we would take our sailboat and try to cross the Atlantic. The sea had other plans, however. 15 days after our departure, we hit an unexpected squall that systematically ripped our boat into pieces. We've been drifting for the past 8 days on our little rubber dinghy. Thirst isn't an issue as of yet. Our survival kit included a salt to freshwater purifier. Hunger is a bitch though. My wife has been the pillar holding me up. I fear if it was me alone, I would have lost my sanity. Day in, day out, I see the same sight without fail. The blue sea greets me as I wake, and bids me farewell when I settle for the night. My wife engages me in meaningful conversation to pass the time. She was always a better communicator. Conversation topics roll from her tongue seamlessly. I've always been secretly jealous of her. I was never shy, nor did I suffer from social anxiety. I just never knew what to say to people. I looked at their blank faces, and my mind went blank in return. My wife never had that problem. If anything, her issue was knowing when to stop talking. I've never appreciated my wife more than at this moment. 22 days adrift is difficult to say the least. Yet, she's made it a joy for me. I've never loved her as I do now. Salvation is at hand. A large cargo ship has spotted our flares and is headed right for us. A smaller boat was lowered and headed directly for us. We've been rescued. The sailor saw me waving at him, tears standing out in my eyes. As he pulled up next to us, he asked, "How many people?" I looked at him and said, "It's just me and my wife. She's under the lifeboat's canopy, out of the cruel sun." He nodded and threw me a rope. In my weakened state, I could hardly climb over the rail of the boat. "If you could please get my wife. Her body is failing," I responded. I watched as the sailor went into the covered canopy, intending to retrieve her. He came out, pale and shaking, shock clearly plastered on his face. His associate asked, "Brian, what is it? Where's the wife?" In response, the man held his blood-drenched hands up. But like I said, hunger is a bitch. My butterflies. Mama, look what I found," I said as I ran to my mother, who was reading on our back porch. She put her book down and looked at me, smiling, and asked, "What do you have, TJ?" "I found a butterfly." She sat up and asked me to open my hands. As I did, the butterfly tried to fly away, so I grabbed its wing so it wouldn't fly, but then the wing tore off. "Oh no. Mama, I hurt it. I hurt it." I started to cry, and my mum knelt down and grabbed the butterfly, saying, "Oh, TJ, it's okay. Accidents happen." "But Mama, it hurts. I hurt it." I started to choke up with tears, but then she grabbed the butterfly and its wing out of my hand and gently put them on the ground. I was wondering what she was doing, until she stepped on it. I cried even louder, wondering why she would ever do such a thing. She turned to me and said, "Honey, let me tell you something. Sometimes you can't heal everything. It's better to put them out of their pain, as I did with this butterfly. If I hadn't killed it, the butterfly would be hurting forever. You wouldn't want that, would you?" I looked up into her soothing blue eyes, and I looked back down at the butterfly. Do you understand why I had to do that now? I looked back up at her and smiled. "Yes, Mama, I get it now." She smiled back at me and picked her book back up as I ran back into the yard, trying to find another butterfly. Maybe if she told me that the same method was only used on insects, I would have stopped at butterflies. The woman in the fog. The broad man strolled through the early morning mist. "That can't be my Nicole," he said whilst reaching longingly for his nearly forgotten wife. She was indeed exactly how he remembered her. Blonde flowing hair that extended well past her shoulders. Those piercing blue eyes were peering at him expectantly. Her strawberry red lips were pursed as if she meant to kiss him. A fire burned in the man. It was all he could do not to scoop her up like he'd done countless times before. Yet something checked him. Intuition, divine intervention, luck, whatever the coin phrase. It held him at bay. His hand stopped reaching for her. No matter how desperate he may have been to caress her, something in his conscience would not allow him to go forward. He remained, hand extended partially, like an especially cautious tortoise peeking its head out of its shell for the first time. Though the visage was stunning and wakened that same burning desire, something was off. She was low-hanging fruit, perfect to the eye without blemish. Yet Eve was seduced by such a thing as this. Fools are unwilling to learn lessons from others. The man was not one of these. Slowly, and with much effort, the hand retracted itself, returning to the man's side. At this, the woman's features turned sour. Hurt was etched with pristine precision on the marble of her face. Her mouth hung open in shocked disbelief, and for a second, all was still. Then she found her tongue, and she said, "My dear, it is I, your wife, Nicole. Why do you shrink back in fear of me? You must see I am the same woman you fell so completely in love with. Your distrust wounds me. To you I bore all. I entrusted my very soul to you, choosing to lay exposed for your eyes alone. My sweet Nicole, it is so. You are the spitting image of my love. No one else has known me for these past 12 years, nor has there been any joy since you've left. Yet it is not you that frightens me. Never could it be you. It's what my eyes glimpsed that cruel winter 12 years past that gives me pause. I was not enough for you, my dear. Do you remember that gloomy night? The night I lost you forever?" responded the man. A puzzled look danced across the woman's face. Her eyes glanced at the floor as if she was trying to recall the event without much success. Finally, after what seemed to be an eternity, she said, "Many winters come to mind, yet the one you describe eludes me. You're my love, my life. Nothing seems so contrary than this queer idea that I'd need anything else. I was happy with you. More so, I was content being your wife." Tears welled in the man's eyes. With one hand, he attempted to shroud his tear-streaked face, while simultaneously, he lowered his head in shame. His voice was still cracked and raw when he replied, "My dear, if only this was so. You left me. 12 years. 12 damned years I had to remain sane for the sake of our daughter, Annabelle. Do you remember her? Does your mind black that out as well? The girl who worshipped the ground you walked. The one with the same oval eyes and pale complexion. Our little princess. She saw you go over. Damn it, Nicole, you did it right in front of our daughter. We were supposed to protect her. Instead, she rarely leaves the house." The fog shifted and the upper portion of the woman's torso vanished. Silence filled the suffocating mist. The crickets stopped chirping and the rustling of leaves fell quiet. All was still. Darkness fell over the land, and the overhead streetlight casted a faint, glimmering warble. Other than the solitary thudding of the man's heart, no sound could be heard. The couple remained still. What could be said? The past was the past. Death is the great divide. yet a chasm was formed long before the couple parted. It is not so, my love. I hold her in my arms. She sleeps on my lap. Look, even now, she's resting in our home. Every night she begs for you. Just one more story, she asks. One more goodnight kiss from the man who loved her so. Come with me, my darling. Lie in my warm embrace this last night. Feel the warmth of our little Annabelle, snuggled between us like the early days. Do not stay foreign to us. Ghostly tears formed down the woman's desperate face as these pleas landed on hard soil. The man's face turned into a thundercloud of rage. With a bellow, the man said, "How dare you? You left us. The real Annabelle remains nary a stone throws distance from this accursed bridge. And still, you have the gall to ask me to forsake her. Hardly could I abandon her the same way you abandoned us. What you ask is too great. To think, before my dear Annabelle, I would have gladly leapt from any height to be with you. It's true, my soul yearns for you even these 12 years past. When it is time, my heart will find you. Yet even so, I shall not let my mind be bogged down with your blissful lunacy." Lunacy, is it? Is it not your stubbornness that keeps us from being a family once more? You are the one who stands resolute, grasping onto a twisted fantasy. I'm sorry, my love. I wish it wasn't true. However, it's your mind that is suffering ailment. My dear, I ask, no. I beg, Etchi. Please come back to us. I'm here. Our daughter is here. Follow my voice from that ledge. Step down from the rail. Come join us and be the man I love," said the woman with real conviction in her voice. Perhaps my mind is damaged. It is even likely I'm no longer sane. Love loss is an unbearable burden for any man to carry. God is my witness. I've borne it longer than any man ought to. Yet, even so, it is you who appears to me in the fog. It is you who I saw plunge headfirst off this very bridge. Whatever glamour you casted, I beseech you, for the sake of this love-sick man, put aside your mask. Reveal to me your true intentions, replied the man. My husband, your mind is vexed. Return to me, my dear. There is no glamour, there is no mask. It is I, your wife. My intentions are true. They are only to see you return to us. I wish to warm your bed. I longed for those days, when I felt your warm breath on my neck, and I knew the beating of your heart. Cast away your dark fantasies and come live with the living. Don't remain in the cold, when you could feel the heat of love once more, pleaded the woman with tears in her eyes. Your arguments nearly persuade me every time. If it wasn't for my Annabelle, I'd follow you to the depths, giving it all to have you one more time in my arms. For her sake, I no longer can meet you on this bridge. Though it is the only moment I have left of you, I must let you go. I must leave you on the bridge. The past is simply that. Farewell, my love. It is appointed all to die. Lord willing, I shall see you on the other side. Before the woman could catch him, the man tumbled off the bridge. He disappeared into the inky blackness of the waters below. Nicole dropped to her knees, holding her head in her hands, and wept for a good man lost. Only God could tell how long the heartbroken woman remained there. A short distance away, a little girl could be heard crying. The woman rose to her feet. After all, there was Annabelle to care for.